Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be using the new Dina Wakley Gloss sprays and doing some abstract mark making in the background. So I'm starting in my Dina Wakley blue journal and I'm working on a pre-gessoed page, and for this you can see I've got my paint palette there and I've poured out a whole range of different gloss acrylic sprays. So I've got the new colours, which are Carnation, Heather, Mineral, Apricot. I think I've got Aloe, but you can't see it because it's off the screen. Gilt, which is that yellowy colour there. It's got a bit of a metallic sheen to it. And I think I may have some Medieval on the palette as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I've also got some of the older colours. So I've got Fuchsia and Eggplant as well. So obviously it's very exciting when you get the brand new colours, but they work beautifully with the old colours. It's great having those light tones and the mid tones that you can sort of add in to darken areas up. And you can see that me doing that here with the Eggplant, just adding in some sort of highlighting areas. So this is me just playing around with the gloss sprays and with my paintbrush. And the reason I suppose this page came about was I've never been great with sprays. I adore the Dylusions ink sprays, but I always struggled with them. And with the gloss sprays, I've had more success because they're permanent and they don't get water reactive again when I'm adding more layers, because I love adding layers to my work. But I would find, particularly if I was doing a page like this, it was just really frustrating, you know, when I was spraying and it was spraying everywhere, even though I had paper down to mask it off and so on. So I thought, well, why not paint with it? And I've really enjoyed just doing this mark making and painting with my palette of gloss sprays. They work so well together, and I suppose the difference between using the regular paints, which you know I well and truly love, and using these gloss sprays is the translucency of them. These ones are a little bit more translucent. They're a little bit more fluid. They flow more easily on the page. One of the things I do love about spraying the gloss sprays is that you get those beautiful natural drips and techniques happening. But you can also get some very fine detail work with it as well. So with a thicker paintbrush I painted in the background. Now I'm going in with a fine paintbrush and I'm just basically using up what the paint that's left in my palette. And I'm going in and drawing circles and doing dashes and dots and lines and just adding in a little bit of shading here and there. Just basically playing around and having a lot of fun. And isn't that what art supplies are all about? So I would challenge you to maybe use your art supplies in a different way. If you've got a spray, try painting with them, pour them out into a palette, try using them in a different way and see what you can come up with. I said that it was on a pre-gessoed page. You will find that the gloss sprays work differently on gessoed and non-gessoed surfaces. Not a huge big deal, just they act in a different way. Because this is a gessoed surface, you can see it's a little bit more translucent. The gloss sprays don't soak into the paper fibres, they sit on top. So they pool in a little bit of a different way. So you get almost a watercolour effect in the way it pools. If I had done that directly onto the cotton rag paper, I could still get those sorts of effects, but it would soak the pigment straight into the paper. So it wouldn't move as far and it wouldn't sit in the surface and do that puddling effect like watercolor. So you just need to think about how you're going to use them or what effect you want to get. You get a sort of granulated watery effect if you gesso your surface beforehand. So once I'd finished my background and playing around with my mark making, I'm now going to add my focal features. So I'm stamping out this set, the Funny Peeps, which I adore, onto some white card and just using black archival ink. And I've chosen to just leave my images black and white because I've got such a colourful background. I don't want them to take away. If I'd colour them in, it's probably going to compete too much with the background. Much and all as I love having a rainbow on the page and having lots of colours, sometimes black and white is your best friend. So I'm just going around the images and fussy cutting them as much as possible. You could certainly do this paper. If you wanted to have the images multicoloured, you could certainly stamp it onto tissue paper and glue it straight onto the background, so it would be transparent and you could see the images of the, you could see the pattern, coming through that paper. But I wanted it opaque colour, so I went straight for stamping onto the cardboard. I really love this little baby one, but it's really hard to fussy cut around. So I have my images and I'm playing around with them. The reason I really like these images is because they remind me of a family unit, and they, in particular, my family. So I always tend to have them bundled up together, and even though my baby's not really a baby anymore, the little one still reminds me of her, so I need to put her in somewhere. So I've got where I like it on the page, but the one thing that's really bugging me about this at the moment is it's not grounded. They're just floating in midair. And I was sort of thinking, do I put something down the bottom for them to sit on? But that kind of blocked out the bottom of it. And so I came up with this idea of putting them on this sort of band. I didn't while I had it sort of in the middle of the page, I didn't particularly like it that far up. So I'm decided to use the rule of thirds. And this is basically an art technique. If you look at any particularly landscape paintings, they tend to be divided into thirds, in foreground, middle ground, background, and it's just something that's aesthetically pleasing to our eye. So sometimes if you move something a little bit further down the page onto a third rather than right in the middle, you might find it sits more easily when you're looking at it. So you can see me sort of playing around. I'm also going around and edging my pieces with some black ink, just to sort of help it pop out from the background again. I also decided to add some book text in, just to add a little bit of something to the center. While I like the craft card, I found it was a little bit too brown for the page. So I just want to change that, and you can see I'm sort of working out where I'm going to collage everything and put it on together. So again, I'm sort of moving it up and down the page, but I decided to put it closer to the bottom, and then I'm just gluing it all down. The good thing about doing something like this is you've got that opportunity to sort of audition it across the page. And you know, even though I sort of knew where I wanted to put it, I was still playing around with it. And do I really want it here? Do I want it up the top? I like that the figures are also off to one side. Again, you know, not everything has to be smack bang in the middle. You can sort of move things over to one side and give you a bit of space on your page. I liked what I had here, but it wasn't quite finished yet, so I decided it needed to have some words on the page. That's one thing, I suppose, for me. I love having text and words on a page. It finishes it off for me. It's one of the reasons why I've got the book text on there as well. So I decided to use the collage tissue that says "You Are Loved" and blend that into the background, just using some matte gel medium. And you can see the tissue goes almost translucent, and you can't really see what it's suspended on, so it looks like it's stamped onto the page. So that's my final page. It's a really fun technique to do. I would, as I said before, challenge you to have a look at your supplies. If you've got sprays, try painting with them. See if you can do it on a gessoed surface or a non-gessoed surface. What sort of effects are you going to get? Just because it's acrylic doesn't mean you can't try some watercolor effects. Probably won't work exactly the same as watercolor, but you might get a close approximation. So I hope that's inspired you to have a go, look at your supplies. Until next time, bye for now.